Quitting, whether you quit or not, is the difference between success or failure.
This is the How to Quit Working Show. Jeff Steinman believes entrepreneurship is the only true path to freedom. That's why he created the How to Quit Working Show, where you'll hear stories, insights, and inspiration from lifestyle fanatics who left their soul-sucking 9-to-5 job forever. Now, here's your host, author, entrepreneur, and ultimate lifestyle fanatic, Jeff Steinman.
Hello and welcome to the Friday episode of the How to Quit Working Show. Today we're going to talk about a couple of things. The biggest thing that we're going to focus on today really is, what do you do when you feel like you want to quit? What do you do when you reach that point and it just seems like nothing's working, and you're frustrated, and you start having the thought of, maybe this isn't the right thing to do. And that happens a lot. It happens to everybody along their journey from working for someone else and taking the common easy path to stepping out and doing the big thing, doing the big thing that's really going to make your life everything that you want it to be. And that's not something to be taken lightly. It's not an easy thing. So we're going to talk about that because everybody reaches that point. And hopefully this episode is something that you can refer back to whenever you feel like you're going to quit. If you're not feeling that way today, and I certainly hope you're not, but if you're not feeling that way today, then maybe this is something that you can kind of file away and come back to this episode if you do feel like you're going to quit or like you want to quit. Before we jump into a couple of things, now this How to Quit Working Circle that we have on Facebook is really, really going great. We've got a lot of great folks joining the group. We're close to 100 members at this point. I think it was 99 when I last looked. But definitely jump out there and get in that group. You can access that at howtoquitworking.com/group, and that shoots you right over to Facebook, and then you get added in there, and then just hit join group, and then we'll approve your request really quickly. But go over there and join in the conversation. We got so many great people in different phases of their business. We have folks who left their job and are now freelancing and are looking to take that business to the next level. We got a lot of folks that are still working, and they're working on something on the side. They're trying to figure out, okay, I got all these different ideas. What's going to work? What's not going to work? And they're getting great feedback about those ideas, and we're just having great conversation. And I know I'm meeting some really cool people out there with some really cool ideas who are doing some really fun, exciting things. And I love going out there and interacting. And I've got a lot of really cool things planned for different things we're going to do in that group and ways we're going to interact and help each other out. So lots of great things. Now, speaking of, before we jump into the content for today, speaking of sort of interaction and finding new ways to interact and to build this community around How to Quit Working, I've got something coming up in November that I'm really excited about. And what we're going to do is we're going to take Friday shows. And maybe we need a better name than the Friday show, but that's kind of what I call it for the time being. But we're going to take these shows and we're going to make them more interactive. So what I'm going to do is we're going to use Google Hangouts to make it live and interactive so that you can actually join in the Hangout. You can be here and participate. We're going to take questions on the show, and we're going to make it a real live interactive experience. And I think it's going to be really, really fun. And we're also going to have, I'm going to figure out some other ways for folks to submit questions and success stories and frustrations and anything that you want to share with the group, anything that you want to tell folks about, anything that's working for you, things that are not working for you. I want to make it really, really interactive and a lot more interactive. Because, really was having a conversation with someone this week, and what we were really talking about is kind of this trend in the internet world, particularly, of there being less touch. Everybody wants to productize. Everybody wants to take, they don't want to talk to people anymore. They want to do an online video and then just send everybody to the online video and move so much away from actual human interaction, actual one-on-one or one-on-many interaction that is so important to us as human beings. And that's not the way that How to Quit Working is going. How to Quit Working is going in a direction of being more interactive and inviting more contact and touch point, and not this whole idea of, well, here's some online videos, just go watch that, or just go read this book, or go do that. And we want to build a community, a deep and strong community. And the How to Quit Working group on Facebook is the sort of the centerpiece of that, but I'm looking for ways to expand that more and to make it more interactive and more fun, and just make even more ways for you to get the support that you need to quit your job and start a business. And I think that this is going to be a great way to do it. So like I said, it'll be via Google Hangouts, and we're going to start that probably sometime in November. A couple other things that I got to get sorted out first. But before we really finalize that, what I wanted to find out from you is, number one, do you think that's a good idea? Is that something that you'd like to participate in? Would you like to participate in that kind of open forum? And the other thing that I'll say too is, like, if I would certainly offer there'll be some way for you to remain anonymous, because I know a lot of folks are working and they need their job, they need the income from their job, and they want to remain anonymous. So we'll figure out some ways for you to participate so that you'll be anonymous and you won't have to have your name or your picture or anything like that shared if you do participate. Now, as you know, in Google Hangouts, a certain number of folks, their actual video appears at the bottom of the screen, and that'll be an option as well if you participate like that. But know that there will be ways to participate anonymously. So, but what I want to know from you is, number one, is that a good idea? Is that something that you are interested in? Is that something that you'd like? And then number two is, if we were to do something like that, tell me when would be a good time to do it, right? Because I usually record the Friday show on Friday afternoon. Friday afternoon, you're probably at work, right? So, what I need is kind of some feedback from people like you who are the people that would actually tune into that, to let me know, hey, when would be a good time? When's a good time? Would Thursday evenings work? Would Saturday mornings be the best time? When would be a good time to do the live Friday shows? And of course, we may not do it live every week. We may do it every other week. We may do it once a month, or who knows. We'll sort all of that out, and that's all going to be dependent upon the feedback that I get from you. Now, if you think that it's a terrible idea, it's not something you'd ever want to be involved with, shoot me an email. Tell me that too. I need to hear all sides of it. But as I have surveyed folks, and as I have asked the question, which I ask just about every time a listener of the show is in front of me or on the phone, or I've got them in the email inbox, what can I do to make it better? And it's always about community and interaction. That's what I'm being told over and over and over again that you want more of. And this is a way that I think we can do that. But as I said, I do need your input and your feedback. Tell me tell me if that's a good idea, if that's a good way to do it. And then if so, give me an idea. What time of the week would work for you, and then just kind of let me know where you're located. Particularly if you're in the U.S., let me know what time zone you're in. If you're overseas, I want to hear your feedback too. I know we have a lot of listeners. I know we've got some folks in the U.K. I know we've got folks in Ireland. I know we have a ton of people in Australia and New Zealand. We've got all kinds of Canadians that listen to this show, and we had a bunch of Canadian guests. I know we have folks in India that listen to the show. I know we have someone in Hawaii, at least one person in Hawaii I know of who listens to the show. We've got a lot of people all over the place. And so just let me know. Number one, is it a good idea? And number two, when would it work for you? When would be the best thing or the best time for you? And then let me know kind of where you're at in the world, so that so I can kind of translate all that and send that feedback and that input to jeff@howtoquitworking.com. Again, it's jeff@howtoquitworking.com, and that's pretty easy to remember. So shoot me over your feedback. Let me know what you think of that. Don't forget to join the How to Quit Working group on Facebook. Go over there. Just give me your feedback directly right there. So actually, I'll be soliciting that feedback when I publish this episode in the group later today. So Anyway, enough of that. Let's move on to our actual topic for today, which is what in the heck do you do when you feel like you want to quit? And this is an important topic because the difference between success in business and failure in business is it really comes down to one thing, and that's persistence. Because what we know is that nobody ever in the history of the universe has come up with an idea and just went out there and successfully made it work perfectly the first time. It's interesting how so much of this stuff comes back to your mindset around failure. But nobody has ever created something that has been successful the first time out of the gate without any tweaks or modifications. And anybody who tells you otherwise is probably lying to you or trying to sell you an internet marketing product or something. But so when you know that, and when you frame up the situation inside of that, with that understanding, right? Then what happens is then you start to really look at things differently, and you start to say, okay, well, so these people who were successful, we know that they probably failed at some point. So what separates them from the people that fail but never actually reach success? Well, it's because they kept going, because they tried again, and they tried again and again and again and again. I have this saying that I came up with, I think it was back in the spring. It just kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. And it's so true, and it's so simple, and it's so short. And what that saying is most people quit. When you look at a lot of things, you look at statistics, and this hit me when I heard a statistic, and I don't remember what it is, but it's about podcasting, and it's about the average podcast, and this is based on some research that was done. Some large number of percent of podcasts, and I don't remember the number, maybe like 70% of podcasts, maybe 80% of podcasts don't make it past like episode 17 or something like that. So when you, and actually, if you want to validate that, just go out on iTunes and start browsing podcasts in any category. You'll see that there are the ones towards the top are the ones that the host has been continuously added and continuously publishing. But what you'll see is a sea of tons and tons and tons of podcasts that did 10, 15, maybe 30 or 40 episodes and then just died. And that's just one example that I think we're all familiar with, since obviously you listen to podcasts. But that's just one of so many things in the world, and it illustrates that the fact of the matter is what separates successful people from unsuccessful it's not brains, it's not money, it's not people, it's not knowledge, it's not any kind of a resource, it's not anything external except the person's willingness to push forward. So when you're at that juncture where you're saying to yourself, gosh, this is just wearing me out. I just don't feel like it's going to work, and I don't want to do it anymore. Remember, most people quit. And this is the point at which you get to make a decision of whether you're going to be successful or not. Because the decision that you're making is not, am I going to quit or not? The decision you're making is, am I going to be successful or not? Always remember that you can be successful. You can absolutely be successful. And I think it's such a shame that we do such a bad job in our world, in our education system, in just the way that we communicate as human beings. We do a bad job of helping people understand and just overall understanding this concept that the difference between success and failure is keeping at it. It's not money, it's not brains, it's not knowledge, it's not resources. It's keeping at it. So when you're making the decision, do I quit or not? The decision that you're making is, am I going to be successful or not? Is it possible to be successful? Absolutely. I mean, obviously within reason. There's you have to be you have to keep your definition of success loose and open enough to be sure that that it's attainable. Or when you tighten it up too much, the one example that I always think of is become president. There's a lot of people who, I am certainly not one of those people, but a lot of people who would like to be the president of the United States or the president of some country or whatever, or maybe that's even a lower level political type of a position. When you think about it, like if I were to, for example, decide I wanted to be president, well, I'm about 40 years old. I got about, according to most common statistics, I got about 40 years of good life ahead of me. We elect a new president every 4 years in this country. I've really only got 10 more opportunities in my lifetime, 10 more elections, right, that I have an opportunity to be president, right? And that's a narrow definition of success. So the more you narrow that definition of success, the harder it is to achieve. But if you step back and you broaden that definition of success, and define think about, well, why do you really want to be president? And what is it that you really want to accomplish as a president? What is it that really drives you and motivates you? And why do you want to do that thing? Right. And then when you really get clear with what that is, what you find is that being president is only one way that you could possibly do that. Okay. So pull back a little bit in your definition of success. When you listen to the guests on my show, I always ask the question, how do you define success? Their answers vary widely, but they ultimately come down to, and they boil down to one thing. They want to make a difference in the world, and they want to have a hell of a good time while they're doing it. And, that's the kind of concept that you have to have for success. And, and you funnel that down, right? So you've got to funnel it down to then what does that mean? What does have a hell of a good time mean? What does making a difference in the world mean? That means a very different thing for everybody. But you've got to funnel that down and really understand what that means. And I think when we really drill down and we get to starting a business, we get to this idea, you decide, as you probably have if you're listening to this show, and you decide that having a job and working for someone else is not the thing that is going to enable you to have the best life that you could possibly have. It's not going to enable you to make that difference in the world and have a hell of a good time while you're doing it, whatever that is for you. For very few people, working a 9-to-5 job is going to enable that. In fact, for most people, it's going to steal away more than a third of your life. Right. So, and you have it, you're very devoted to the concept that starting a business is what you want to do. Where you'll get tripped up, and this is sort of going back to that being president analogy, is that idea of how you're going to do that is so specific. I think it's a Les Brown quote that said something to the effect of, he said, you just have to figure out what you want. How you get it is none of your business, right? And his point is, you got to figure out what that goal is. How you get there is something that you got to figure out along the way, right? So don't get married to a specific path, or a specific interim item to achieve on the way to that larger goal. right? But rather be open about that and be open to to the infinite number of ways that you can get to that larger goal. And then that does a couple of things. Number one, that lets you then be able to adjust and adapt in a way that will get you there. You know, it's almost like driving to the grocery store, right? If you're driving to the grocery store and you say, I'm going to drive to the grocery store and I'm going to take 3rd Street all the way from my house to the grocery store. I'm going to get on 3rd Street and I'm going to take 3rd Street all the way down. Well, what happens if there's an accident on 3rd Street and 3rd Street is blocked off? You can't get to the store. Or can you? Is there another street you can take? Is there another route you can take? See, if you had it set in your mind that you were going to go to the store and you were that taking 3rd Street was the only way that you could get there, and then something happened on 3rd Street, there was construction, there was an accident, any number of things, there was a parade, who knows, then you can't get to the store. But if your goal is, I'm going to get to the store no matter what, then you come to that obstacle on 3rd Street and say, oh, you know what? I'm going to make a left on Elm here, and then I'm going to take Oak all the way up to the store. And that's the way you got to look at goals in your life and in your business. You got to look at it like, you know, there's something out there that I want, and that thing is big enough, but I'm not worried about the how, right? The how can evolve. You know, when I look at where my business is now versus where I thought it was going to be, wow. I never thought this is what it was going to look like. Never thought it would have a name like How to Quit Working. Never thought I'd be doing a podcast. I didn't even think I was going to write a book. I didn't think I was going to do a lot of the things that I'm doing to build this brand right now. But I knew where I wanted to go. I knew that I wanted that financial and time and location independence. I didn't know necessarily how I was going to get, well, I shouldn't say that. I thought I knew how I was going to get it. And through a lot of trial and tribulation, I've been able to find the road, and I'll still continue finding the road, right? I'm not there yet. And I don't believe that if we're ambitious human beings that we ever actually get there. So, but I want to really, really drive home the idea that you have to know what you want, and you have to be open to figuring out different ways to get there. Because what really happens is when we're at that crossroads and we're sitting there going, oh crap, I just want to quit. We got to make the decision. We got to make the decision of, are we going to because there's obviously some obstacle there. Almost always some kind of obstacle that makes us want to quit. We've got to make the decision of that obstacle. How are we going to deal with it? Right? Are we going to go around it, over it, under it, around it, through it, whatever it may be, to get to where we're going? If we look at that obstacle, and if we're married to that specific route that obstacle is standing in the way of, then we're really going to feel like quitting, right? Because we're going to feel like, oh gosh, this thing is standing in my way of success, because I know what I want and I know where it is, and I know that I've got to go through this thing to get there. And there's this thing, it's in the way. But if you loosen up your definition of success and you really understand what is it really that you want, then you can be open-minded enough to first realize that success is determined by how you deal with those obstacles. And then number two, you can look at it and say, hey, let me just bebop around this thing. I can't believe I just said bebop, but I guess it works pretty well. Let me just bebop around this thing and find another way to get to where I want to go, which is over there. And if you're watching on video, you can see me pointing. But if you're just listening to the audio, that's perfectly fine. So if you feel like quitting, be sure that you defined success in a way that you haven't created extra obstacles for yourself by being too particular about the path that you take, number one. And then number two, remember, if you're having that question about should I quit or should I keep going, remember, quitting, whether you quit or not, is the difference between success or failure. It's not anything else. In fact, if you're at that point where you feel like quitting, it's a really exciting place to be. And what you can do in that very moment is you can seal the fate. You can seal your fate. And the way you can seal your fate is by deciding to keep going. Because that's the thing. It's the only thing that is going to make a difference.
Thanks for joining us on the How to Quit Working show. Tune in next time when we'll talk to another amazing person just like you who is now living the ultimate life of freedom and doing it on their terms. If you want to learn how to quit working and get these episodes delivered directly to you, visit howtoquitworkingshow.com.